Hi there, welcome to this People's Health revision video on how to answer the 18 mark questions, question 4 or 5. Okay, so how to answer the People's Health question 4 or 5. There's some steps for success. Make sure you decode the question, be clear on what it's asking you to do, and link back to the question in your answer. Make a very quick plan. You're looking for 4 developed arguments with a degree of balance. Make sure you include 4 well-explained paragraphs. Each paragraph must include detailed and specific knowledge, analysis and explanation, and links back to the question. Finish with a conclusion. We call this a clinching argument. Now, the essay question is worth 18 marks, so spend about 25 minutes on it in the exam. Okay, let's have a look at the levels. So, to get to the top, 16 to 18, you need 4 developed arguments plus a clinching argument. 13 to 15 is 3 developed arguments, but it must be balanced, so at least one must be agree and at least one must be disagree. 10 to 12 is 2 developed arguments, 7 to 9 is 1 developed argument, 4 to 6 might be the identify different arguments but they're not fully explained, and 1 to 3 is sort of valid but general statements, not really linked to the question. Okay, let's have a look at this question in a bit more detail. So we're going to have a look at this question below. You will have a choice of question 4 or question 5, and just a reminder, this 18 mark question is the same style of exam question you'll get for both Making of America and Living Under Nazi Rule, and it's pretty similar really to the 20 mark Elizabethan question as well. So you kind of have got that kind of consistency in terms of approach, in terms of how to answer these essay questions. So let's have a look at the question first of all. Now make sure in the exam you spend a good amount of time reading the essay so that you know what it's asking you to do. So how far were improvements in public health in the 1800s brought about by improved scientific understanding about disease? Give reasons for your answer. It's worth 18 marks. So when you're in the exam, make sure you decode in the exam question. You are highlighting it, you're underlining key phrases. It might look a little bit something like this. How far means you need a balanced answer in evaluating a historical argument. You need to have a degree of balance, so there must be at least one of your key arguments, the 4 key arguments you have, at least one must be agree and at least one must be disagree. But it can be, say, like 1 agree, 3 disagree if you want. The question's about why there are improvements in public health. It's a causation argument, okay? So it's all about why there are improvements in public health during this time period. Time periods are crucial. You can only write about the 1800s, so it's 1800 to 1899. Improved scientific understanding about disease is one of the causes to analyse, so you must write about other factors such as government, for example. Okay. Now you might have a couple of key arguments around improved scientific understanding, so you might have one paragraph on one particular scientific understanding, like the germ theory, and then another key argument about a different example of scientific understanding, like John Snow's Broad Street cholera epidemic, for example. Give reasons means you need to use knowledge and analysis to have a developed argument. This is the structure for this question, okay? So you need 4 paragraphs plus your clinching argument. Now, what we mean by developed argument is using specific and relevant knowledge, using analysis, using relevant second-order concepts and historical language, and having a clear link back to the question. So that's often really good at the end of each paragraph. Have a little phrase like, this shows that, this proves that, it is evident that. They're all useful phrases to use. Okay, so this is the 18 mark practice question. Okay, so we're just going to have a look at some ideas for this one. Now, what I've done is I've color-coded this to show that actually I'm only going to give one factor to agree, which is going to be around Louis Pasteur's germ theory. But there's so much to write about in this question that I don't need to write about absolutely everything. So, for example, I could have written about John Snow and the Broad Street cholera epidemic as an example of scientific understanding as well. But I haven't chosen to do that, but equally you could do, and that could be a second degree. Disagree, I'm going to talk about working class men being given the vote. I'm going to talk about the role of individuals like Edwin Chadwick, and I'm going to talk about how key events like the Great Stink led to sort of like the development of the sewer system and more legislation in the 1870s, laws in the 1870s. So this is like a quick plan, and what I would suggest is that you do a quick plan like this, making sure you've got a degree of balance and making sure you're going to stack your argument with evidence so you've got some really good key piece of evidence that can really prove your argument. Okay, we're just going to have a look at an example paragraph down here. Now, Checklist for the question, include information from the correct time period, precise and relevant knowledge, link to the correct second order concepts. So this one is about significant and cause and consequence. Include 4 key arguments to the degree of balance, and finish with a clinching argument where you explain and justify your final opinion. There's some good ideas there about causation language as well, and if you can try and bring in some of those phrases, that would be really helpful. So let's read the example paragraph about Louis Pasteur's germ theory. So we're going to start off with what we call signpost sentence, where we're going to basically quote the question in our answer. And that's really good because it will mean that your essay stays tightly focused on the question, which is important. There is evidence to agree that improved scientific understanding brought about improvements in public health. For example, big improvements happened as a result of Louis Pasteur's germ theory in 1861. This argued that germs made liquids go bad, and in 1864 he proved germs cause decay. This convinced many other scientists that disease was caused by germs. Once germs and dirt were connected to disease, people were more willing to pay more money to improve public health, and this was a crucial factor in bringing about the passing of the 1875 Public Health Act, which led to improvements in public health. So that's our first key argument, done and dusted. Let's have a look at the direction that the essay could then go in. So we've already looked at Louis Pasteur's germ theory. If we look at the idea about our first disagree, working class men got the vote, we could say, on the other hand, other factors such as working class men getting the vote in 1867 were important. When some working class men got the vote, it placed the power to elect MPs and town councillors in the hands of the working class. Conservative leader Benjamin Disraeli wanted to win the support of new votes and made a speech in Manchester promising pure air and pure water. He promised that if he won the election in 1874, he would improve public health. When he did win the election of 1874, he passed the Public Health Act, which led to huge improvements in public health. So another second disagree would be individuals like Edwin Chadwick. Some public health improvements happened due to the role of individuals like Edwin Chadwick. In 1842, Chadwick wrote a report for the Poor Law Commission. It contained shocking details of the public health crisis in Britain. Although Chadwick believed that disease was spread by miasma, he recommended that towns should be forced to provide clean water and sewerage systems. His report was influential, and many politicians supported Chadwick. This led to the passing of the 1848 Public Health Act, which was a pivotal first step in improving public health in the 1800s. Third disagree, great stink. Finally, another reason for public health improvements not to do with scientific understanding was the Great Stink. During the hot summer of 1858, the River Thames in London dried up so much that the smell of sewage from the river became unbearable. It became impossible for MPs to continue their debates and work in Parliament. This led to them realising there was a public health crisis and they needed to take action. As a result, the government ordered Joseph Bazalgette to build 1,300 miles of new sewers across London, which helped to prevent the spread of cholera. Okay, we're then going to look at an example of a conclusion now. So a clinching argument should be written at the end of your essay, and it should be clear, concise, and conclusive. So some good historical language for a clinching argument is there: how to start off, how to embrace complexity, and how to explain your final opinion. So let's have a look at an example answer for a clinching argument, a conclusion. Overall, I strongly agree that improved scientific understanding led to improvements in public health. Although the other factors were influential, there were strong limitations, such as the 1848 Public Health Act was only optional, and Bazalgette's sewers were only in London. It is apparent that although there were many factors for why the 1875 Public Health Act was passed, it was the scientific evidence to back it up, which meant that the law got so much support across politicians and the public. Therefore, improved scientific understanding was crucial to getting the government to pass effective laws that would have impact. Okay, so thanks for listening to that guide video for how to answer people's health question 4 or 5. 3 takeaways: decode the question carefully. You need 4 key arguments to the degree of balance. Make clear links back to the question to make sure you are fully answering the question. Thanks very much for listening. Goodbye.